Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me tonight, today, wherever you are, whatever time it happens to be. Just glad to have you. We're going to jump right in here. A posting that came out of New Zealand from the New Zealand police investigating the Christchurch shooting. In an email to the website in which the shooting was originally live streamed. Now, it's a website that I wasn't familiar with until these unfortunate happenings, kiwifarms.net. No, this isn't sponsored by them at all. It's just something that came to my attention. Apparently, the New Zealand police sent an email, and I'll just read this email here that they sent out to Kiwi Farms. It's pretty self-explanatory. It begins, "Good afternoon. I'm hoping that you can help us with an investigation the New Zealand police are working on. On 15 March 2019, there was a shooting in New Zealand with multiple fatalities at two mosques in the city of Christchurch. The alleged offender in this matter is Brenton Tarrant. And around the time of the shooting, there were a number of posts and links posted on kiwifarms.net, with a link included in the email, relating to the shooting and Tarrant. We would like to preserve any posts and technical data, including IP addresses, email addresses, etc., linked to these posts, pending a formal legal request. Could you please advise what legal process you require for this request, and also confirm preservation of the data requested pending legal process? Kind regards, John Michael, Detective Senior Sergeant." It lists his email here. I won't give that out. At the bottom of the email, they post, and normally I wouldn't read this junk, but it's relevant to the reply. "Warning, this information contained in this email message is intended for the addressee only and may contain privileged information. It may also be subject to the provisions of Section 50 of the Policing Act 2008, which creates an offense to have unlawful possession of police property. If you are not the intended recipient of this message, blah, 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 blah." On it goes. I'm sure you're familiar with that, but the Section 50 comes up. So, a reply, and mad props to the person in charge of Kiwi Farms. His name is Joshua Moon. For those of you who don't know, I didn't know until this email came up, but a lot of respect for his reply and his protection of his audience, for lack of a better word, subscribers to his website, whatever you want to call it. But his reply goes, "Is this a joke? I'm not turning over for information about my users. The person responsible for posting the video and manifesto PDF is myself. I feel real bad for you guys. You've got a quiet nation, and now this attack is going to be the first thing people think of for the next 10 years when they hear the name New Zealand. But you can't do this. Tell your superiors they're going to make the entire country and its government look like clowns by trying to censor the internet. You're a small, irrelevant island nation, barely more recognizable than any other nameless Pacific sovereignty. You do not have the clout to eradicate a video from the internet, and you do not have the legal reach to imprison everyone who posted it. If anyone turns over to you the information they're asking for, they're not only cowards, but they're fucking idiots. My name is Joshua Moon. I'm a U.S. citizen living overseas. My company is contained within a Florida company. If you need an address to send physical documents to, this works." He lists an address. I won't put that on here. He goes on, "If you're wondering, no, Kiwi Farms has nothing to do with New Zealand. Our name is a pointed jab at some of the mush-mouthed autistic people we make fun of. Absolutely nothing about our community is NZ-oriented. And I don't give a single solitary fuck what Section 50 of your faggot law says about sharing your email. Fuck you and fuck your shithole country. Signed, Josh." Detective Senior Sergeant John Michael replied, "Hi Josh, appreciate your quick response. We'll definitely consider what you have said. It's not even a word. Have said. Regards, John." Now, not too many websites out there these days will flip off a law enforcement agency to protect its followers, people who post on there. Especially, you see Facebook is not only actively collecting, but they're selling and disseminating all of your private information, your pictures and everything. And then you get a company and a owner of a company. Apparently, the company's name is Lolcow LLC, who owns KiwiFarms.net. And I just had to take the intro to this and give them mad props for standing up to invasive requests for people's personal information. I know there's a lot of people out there, especially nowadays, who say, well, I don't have anything to hide. Who cares what they collect or what they put on there or anything like that? And we're not going to get into today why I think that's just absolutely retarded to do. But we'll just suffice it to say that they say knowledge is power. Information is knowledge. Information is power. It could seem innocuous to you. Who cares? I put it up. I got my freedom. I got my rights, things like that. But protecting your information is very, very important. The fact that a company and the owner of a company would formulate this reply and send it out, instantly I'm a fan of Joshua Moon of Lolcow LLC. So we'll get into the meat and potatoes of our podcast today. Something I just wanted to address in regards to some emails that I'd received over my last video, in which I said that there's something suspicious about the Christchurch shooting, calling it a false flag operation. Some people who had emailed me asked me what constitutes a false flag. The Sandy Hook thing, which I would be lying if I said I was super familiar with. I know there was a shooting at Sandy Hook, but a lot of people called that a false flag. I didn't look into it. I try, like I mentioned a few times, to keep my head buried in the sand about anything in the news. It's never good news. I found when I was paying attention to the news, I was more depressed, irritable. It just makes the world seem like a darker place than I wanted it to be. You can't always ignore it, though. And the times that I've seemed to pay attention have been the times that, in my opinion, things have been very outwardly different than I thought that they were. And that was this Christchurch shooting. That was the Las Vegas shooting. For those who don't remember, there was that massive shooting. Not that I know how you could forget, but a massive shooting of innocent people. A lot of things there didn't make sense. Seemed like maybe not necessarily a false flag, but again, more to the story than we know, than we're told. Not given all the pieces, things come out in whatever order they want. Much of the information that comes out seems designed to confuse and muddle the issue from actually giving you a precise and clear picture. And more questions, people who question it being censored, things like that. So we're going to go in again a little bit in reference to my last video, in which I called it a possible false flag, and just go into what, in my opinion, constitutes false flag, or are some warning signs that may be present in things that may have more to the story. So section 1 is there's a manifesto. Now, manifesto will be written, or the manifesto rather, will be written in such a way that it will politically brand someone with an agenda to fit a current line of thinking, whether it be pro one way or anti the other way. It will always be in there to fit a certain agenda. Now, many mass shootings, if you examine them throughout history, seem to be related to things like love, betrayal, things like that. Not really political motivations, but emotional motivations, in which they're fired from their work, they get their gun, they go back, they go postal, which is where you get that term from. Very rarely, I'm not going to say never, but very rarely do you see mass murder of people as political motivation and have no kind of agenda there. They're for lack of a better term, they're using terrorism. It's terrorist acts. Does Islam use political agenda for terror attacks? Absolutely. Does John Q. Citizen down the street, who up until this point has seemed normal and never really had any run-ins with the law or anything like that, write a manifesto that's politically motivated and then go out and do something heinous about it? Rarely. Next, it usually seems to include racism. Now, either the accusation of the shooter being racist, usually the accusation of the shooter being racist, and race being a current hot topic, a very divisive issue. Not that you can say racism is a good thing, but there are some people who are focused on it more now than ever, and it's a very political and media hot topic right now. There always seems to be some racist element, or element of racism, I should say, to the story. In the case of Christchurch, it happened to be a white guy shooting up a bunch of Muslims. There's your hatred, there's your race, there's your cue card. Another thing seems to be 24/7 mainstream media coverage. You'll turn on the TV and that's all you'll hear about. You won't hear many facts, okay? You'll hear bits and pieces, again, similar to Las Vegas. They'll muddle them all together, release them in a non-coherent order. Some facts will change, some facts aren't even facts, but that's all they'll cover constantly until you're just tired of hearing about it. I don't know if it's an attempt to force this belief on people that this is what happened. It's an attempt to force you to feel bad and force you into the "oh, poor them" attitude, whoever the victim is. But it always seems to just be in your face. You look at the newspaper, it's there. You hear at the water cooler at work, if you have one. That's all people talk about. That's all the media talks about. And that's all they'll put on there until all of a sudden it disappears. And you don't hear word one about it again. Now, I know they say there's a news cycle and things like that, but it's almost like it's maybe an attempt to bore you with it so that the next time something true or important comes on, you just are so tired of hearing about it that you just can't or don't care anymore. Frequently, there will be a hero involved in these things. In the Aurora theater shooting, there was a man who dove on his girlfriend and pushed him out of the way. That wasn't what really happened, but there's always a hero. On the September 11th hijackings, the valiant passengers on the airplane retook the airplane, but it was just too late to avoid crashing and leaving mysteriously no evidence of an airplane actually having been there. There's always a heroic element to focus on. There's always a suspicious referring back to that, there's always a suspicious lack of actual evidence or things that don't make sense. I referred to it in my last video, in which what doesn't make sense to me is that Joe Average, with no combat training, could go and perform that kind of mass shooting in the way that he did without any, we'll call them negative side effects, but no over adrenaline, no losing his mind, no super amped up. He was very calm, collected, professional. He was very, very professional in that shooting. Yet everything that we've been told and can find out about him is that he's just a normal guy who just flipped a switch. But nothing about his weapon handling skills, about when the person jumped on him, speaking of the hero, but when a person jumped on him trying to secure him, how he calmly dispatched that individual, reloaded after that fight, was scanning for targets. Those things aren't average Joe shooter. That's not, I go to the gun club on weekends. That's, I've got some kind of training under my belt. I'm experienced. I've done this before. And again, if we refer to, I believe it was Flight 89 or 98, I really can't remember that far back. I apologize. Lack of evidence. So any kind of evidence that could be used for or against, usually against the government or to cast reasonable doubt as to the official story, is immediately secured, never seen again, never mentioned. Anyone who brings it up is a conspiracy theorist. You see that a lot. And I don't mean to sound like Alex Jones, but once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, 3 times is enemy action. Beyond that, you got something going. And it seems like in every one of these, there's always a suspicious lack of compelling evidence. Plenty of circumstantial evidence, which on its own can convict. I know everyone says you can't convict. You can. But when you have these massive incidents, you should have an overwhelming amount of evidence showing point A to point Z, a timeline, how this happened, where this happened, where did he get these guns, where did he get this training, how did he know this? And I know it's still early, but you're telling me that the media can come up with who hijacked the planes within 15 minutes of them being hijacked on September 11th, but they can't come up with formulated information on where this person got his weapons training after several days into it? Come on now. Again, seems to be a political agenda. We've gone over that. We won't go over that again. Crisis actors. Now, it sounds ridiculous. And when people said there were crisis actors, as open-minded as I try to be, I laughed that off. I thought that's absolute insanity. There's no fucking way. There's no way people would be that stupid to do that. Either be the actor or use actors, because eventually they're going to get recognized. But there is plenty of actual evidence showing the same people at different tragedies all around the world being witnesses or victims or heroes or first responders. It's the same people, not always 100% of the same people, but the same people seem to be here and here and here and here and involved in all these different things. And when it was pointed out to me and actually shown to me, it was fairly enlightening. I still have a hard time believing it, though I've seen it with my own eyes. But it's there. Do some research, go look at it. There's plenty of other videos on crisis actors. And you gotta wonder if there are actual victims, if things are actually as they appear to be. Why do you need actors? Why do you need people from the US and New Zealand? Or why do you need people from Sandy Hook at 9/11? Not that there was that, I never saw that, but several of the school shootings seem to have the same people in them. Another target, or another section of false flag. The shooter's actions are almost always explained by mental problems. He's unbalanced. He was doing this, that, or the other thing. He was crazy. He was talking to himself. He was writing all these weird Facebook or social media events, topics, and he was crazy. Well, labeling someone as crazy is a very easy and convenient way of silencing any questions as to why. If somebody goes in and shoots up a place, we can rightfully extrapolate that that person may be crazy. But maybe not. Maybe there's more to the story. Now, is every single person who does this mentally ill? Well, according to this, yes. But that seems like it's always a very convenient answer for things like this. Why did he do it? Oh, he's crazy. Ignore him. Okay. Well, that has the effect of, like I said, silencing any other questions, or also silencing, perhaps these people have a message when they do these things, or they have a reason, in their mind, a legitimate reason. Maybe not to us a legitimate reason, but if they're instantly labeled crazy, then anything that they come up with, even if they were to come out and say, I was hired by the government to perpetrate this, what if they were? It wouldn't matter because this person has been labeled as a lunatic. You won't believe anything that they say at that point. It's all very convenient. Then you usually see a lone gunman. Now, I know we've been told that there are 4 people were involved. It was a coordinated strike on 2, but only one person live streamed it. You're hearing a lot of the focus being on this Brenton Tarrant. He's taking the fall, I guess, in the media. There doesn't seem to be a lot of focus on the woman involved, the other 2 males apparently involved. It all seems to focus on one individual. It's a little bit strange when you have a group of people doing a coordinated attack on a target with 50 dead. Would you not expect to see equal news about all 4 people? I would. But it all seems to focus on Brendan Tarrant, his manifesto, his live streaming of the incident. Nothing is really said or asked about these other 3 people. It seems a little strange to me. Immediately, you'll see charities, all right? Survivors of incident X, Y, Z. Charities will come up, in which they will make hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into these charities because people, as hard as it is to believe sometimes, people are, in my opinion at least, inherently good. You see a lot of, especially in tragedies, you see a lot of outpouring of kindness from people who aren't maybe directly involved, but around the world, these things get your attention. You feel bad. You want to help because that's what we want to do as people. And these charities come up and people donate to them and they make hundreds of millions of dollars, which in an actual charity or an actual tragedy is a fantastic thing. But 100% of the time in these school shootings, in these things, there is massive charities given massive amounts of political pull. I keep referring to Sandy Hook, but the other names of all the school shootings kind of evade me at the moment. But what's a big political hot topic right now? Gun control. It's a massive political topic. The survivors of Sandy Hook, I think is what they're called, are now pro-gun control, anti-gun, anti-NRA, etc., 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 which is a very political move. But they make hundreds of millions of dollars and become massive lobbyists for gun control. seems a little bit odd to me that, I mean, I God forbid I'm ever a party to any kind of tragedy in which someone I know or love has been injured, but the last thing I would do in that case is to profit for myself. I would not be actively looking for hundreds of millions of dollars to go after anything. That wouldn't be what I'd want to do. If I was getting all these donations, I would want to put it towards a charity that would help people and not into a political thing. I mean, you could put it into orphans, you could put it into sick kids, you could put it into helping people. Now, I know you're going to say, well, maybe they're just putting it in so it never happens again. Well, maybe. But maybe, looking deeper, these people are being given money from other places, using that as a backdrop to then funnel. God, I'm sounding like Alex Jones here. I really am. It's turning the frogs gay. I really don't mean to come off this way. This isn't usually what I do. I like to focus on logic and things like this, but I can't ignore patterns, and neither should anyone. We see the same pattern repeating over and over and over again. And you want to know what, man, the definition of insanity is? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And we are seeing the same thing over and over and over again. We're seeing mass shootings, mass gunning down of people, and the result is always the same. The incident is almost always the same. Innocent people shot, government comes out, we have to ban this, that, and the other thing. Another thing happens. Now we have to ban this, that, and that. Another convenient thing about this Christchurch shooting, this goes back to political agenda. I've never been a world leader, and God forbid I ever have to be a world leader. That would be stress in a way that I can't imagine. But if I were a world leader, a country leader, even a town leader, would my first, and say I was the mayor of Christchurch or the, I believe it's Prime Minister of New Zealand, and I was in charge when a tragedy like this occurred, the bodies aren't even in the ground before I am pulling out a massive, sweeping reform to gun control. Almost like I had it sitting on my desk, just waiting for something to happen. Now, that may be the case. She may have just been waiting and waiting for, I hope something horrible happens so that I can push what I believe onto other people. No questions about, did he obtain these guns legally? No questions about, is banning guns actually going to work? Because it won't. I mean, they've tried it with drugs. It was ineffective. I know they're going to refer to Australia as, oh, well, look. Well, yeah, you know what? Gun crime went down in Australia. It did. It didn't disappear, okay? Like they'd have you believe. But gun crime went down. And when they say gun crime went down, well, it went down because, look, it's the same thing as the Canadians have done, all right? I watched, I know I keep picking on Canada, but I have my reasons for that. We'll get into it in another video. But you look at the Canadians, and I watched their, what the hell are they called? The Royal Mounted Police, or whatever they are. The Royal Canadian, the RCMP, okay? And they give a speech about, yeah, the economy in Canada's bad. We're seeing, you know, crime and stuff. But crime is down. Crime has been going steadily down in the last couple of months. I thought, well, that's a pretty bold claim. Usually when police departments claim crime is going down, it's because crime isn't actually going down, it's going up, but they've just found ways of reclassifying how they report the crime. So A break and enter to a vehicle is no longer a break and enter, it's a property crime. So break and enters go down 1 month, but property crime goes up. Attempted murder is no longer attempted murder, it's assault with a deadly weapon. It's all a game. So I looked into it more, and yeah, you know what? He wasn't lying. Crime did go down, but here's why. They made marijuana legal, effectively removing any crime stats that they would have had to previously record for in dealing with marijuana. So yeah, it's a great way of showing crime is down. Yeah, we've had to deal with 40% less crime this month because that 40% was all made up of marijuana. So crime actually hasn't gone down. It stayed the same or slightly increased, as it always does. Just your way of reporting it or the actual facts behind it have gone away. We'll switch topics here. I know I've gone off, been on a bit of a tangent here. And we'll conclude with the official story as the final section of this false flag briefing, if you want to call it that. Now, the official story, in many cases, never ever makes sense. Whether it be the shooting down of a passenger jet off the east coast of the United States, whether it be a mysterious collision at sea involving a warship, whether it be a shooting of a country and western concert in Las Vegas. The official story that comes out never really sits perfectly right. When things are right, you know it, you feel it. You know, it brings you closure, some kind of satisfaction. It doesn't left you feeling unsatisfied. Where are the answers? How did this happen? Where did this happen? How did this person do this? Why did the police do that? You never get 100% of the facts. Now, if it was a tragedy, a legitimate tragedy in the way that it's being sold, then you would think that they would be eager to provide 100% of everything that happened. But more than that, they wouldn't immediately silence anyone who questioned their official story. And they like to throw buzzwords. They like to say conspiracy theorist. Well, that's just a great way of shutting down any kind of discussion on a topic. Now, I'm a big proponent of being able to discuss anything, whether I agree with it, you agree with it, or not. Freedom of speech should mean exactly that. You are free to say or think or believe whatever you want, regardless of how controversial that may be. And as they say, the truth needs no defense. It speaks for itself. The official story, they always need to defend it. There's always things that don't make sense. There's always things that if you question them on, well, hey, how come this happened, but you said this happened, and that doesn't make sense? You're immediately shut down. You're labeled as hateful or a bigot, misogynist, racist, whatever they can do to discredit you, to shut you up, to keep you quiet. That is exactly how they run it, a million times. The same as if they declared that the person had mental problems. If they call you a crazy conspiracy nut job for having a different opinion, or maybe not even having different opinions, maybe just being curious, maybe just wanting more, well, that'll shut you up, won't it? Nothing like, a lot of these terms are similar to how if you're accused of rape, even if you never did it, even if you're found to have been in another state, another country at the time of the occurrence, the mere accusation will follow you for the rest of your life, and you will never, ever get rid of it. It's the scarlet letter, really. Just a modern version of it. Anyway, this has been quite the rant. I hope it's been a little bit educational to those few people that sent me an email. It was an interesting topic. Like I said, it's not something I usually try to do on this channel, is to bring up InfoWars style stuff. Other people have that market pretty much cornered, and I am not quite sure how believing I am in a lot of the stuff that comes up. But like I said, when something doesn't feel right, it's your duty and responsibility to look into it, to ask questions. I mean, think of when you're growing up as a kid. The only way you learn things is by asking questions, and it doesn't mean the answers are going to be right or factual or anything like that, or even the answers that you want to hear. Usually they're not. But it's important to ask questions. It's important to take the answers that are given and then listen to what's given and decide for yourself. I thank you guys for joining me for this rant. If you've stayed this entire way, good on you. I appreciate it. If you didn't, well, you aren't hearing this anyway. If it's not too much trouble, those who have stuck around, throw me a like or a comment. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings, anything that I've missed on this topic, anything that you think should be added. If you have any questions for me, feel free to inbox me or post them on the channel. I'll look at them and try to reply to them if I can. You guys have a great night. We'll see you next time.